Now let's look at membership, Chapter 4. Coverage is determined by Arizona State Retirement System statutes. It won't be determined by any personnel rules that the employers may have. But before we go into that in detail, I do want to cover 3 different items that relate to membership. 218 coverage, state employee waiting period, and the 65-plus waiver. When the Arizona State Retirement System began in 1953, the government, the legislature and governor at that time, required that all public employers that were going to join the Arizona State Retirement System first join the Social Security. Now, some back information about this: public employers were separate from federal government. Back in the 30s, private companies, all employees had to join Social Security. But public employers did not join unless they elected to. So in 1951, the state of Arizona joined the Social Security by doing a state agreement. And then any new employer that wanted to join the retirement system, that 218 agreement would be amended, and they would go through the process of joining Social Security first and then joining the Arizona State Retirement System. What's different now is back on July 24, 2014, the law changed. And that permitted any new employer that wanted to join the retirement system the option. They could still go through the process to join Social Security and then join the Arizona State Retirement System. But if they chose not to go through the Social Security first and just want to join the Arizona State Retirement System, they could. But one thing that all employers need to understand, and members that move from one ASRS employer to another, is they would want to see if that particular employer was part of Social Security. And the reason for that is when you're working in the public sector, and if you work for one of our few ASRS employers that don't have a 218 agreement, the more years you put in with with ASRS without the Social Security, there can be some offsetting on your Social Security benefits. And that's just something you want to know. Again, most of our employers are already joined with Social Security, but as time goes on, we may get more and more employers without the Social Security agreement. For state, we have a law that's in place for state employers only. It was referred to as 26-week or 6-month waiting period. Those state agencies, employers in HR or accounting and payroll, would need to look at the different and new hires to see if they have an account with the Arizona State Retirement System or not before enrolling them. Some of the different departments that are part of state would be agencies, some boards, universities. All 3 major universities are considered state employees, corporation, and the legislature employees. Your responsibility as an employer, you would want to use a tool we have called Check Member Eligibility. With this tool, you would go in to see if they have an existing account with the Arizona State Retirement System. Again, for state employers only. If they go in, they would see if the employee has an account or not. If they have an account, then the employer would enroll them right away because they're engaged to work full membership, and they would start remitting contributions. If the employee does not have an account with the retirement system, under state law, state agencies have to wait the 26 weeks. If there's any confusion or that particular department has some detailed questions if it's valid or not, we always refer them to the Arizona Department of Administration because they have final authority on the waiting period. The other benefit that we have available to members is those that are age 65 or older. Now, those that are 65 or older, we have what's called the WAIVER, membership waiver form. Now, new hires, when you're bringing them on, you can check to see if they have an account with the Arizona State Retirement System. If they don't have an account already with us, you can discuss this with them if they prefer to waive joining the Arizona State. The 3 criteria is they have to be 65 years of age or older when you hire them. Again, they can't have that account with us, and we have to have the form submitted through secure messaging to us within 30 days of employment. Your responsibility, again, you're going to provide that document if they decide to opt out, and you want to provide that form, and again, it's through Forms and Packets link. And you make sure you send that through secure messaging. The Check Membership Eligibility tool I spoke of, it is online. It's best used for state employers. They use that to determine if someone has to wait, a new hire. Also, it's used by all employers to verify for that waiver by going into this check membership eligibility to see if they have that account. If they don't have an account and they're 65 age or older, they could waive. And you can find out if they're, for new hires, if they're retired or not. And we're going to go into return to work here a little bit later on, but that's also used to determine if someone is coming back, drawing a pension with us or not. Great tool. This is what you're going to see when you go into the tool. You're going to enter their social security number and their date of birth. Once you enter that, you can see there's some different information statuses that may come up. If they're contributing, if they're deceased. Now, if you see date of birth error, or it's missing, or there's a mismatch when you do this, do contact the Employer Relations Department. You can send secure messaging or email our Employer Relations email. By doing that, or give us a call, we can look that individual up and see why there might be an error or mismatch. A lot of times when you get that error, what we have found is that individual had worked for another ASRS employer. They had remitted contributions to us, but they never enrolled them. So we don't have their date of birth, and it's going to come back as a mismatch or error. And then we can let you know that, yep, they have monies on account with us. Even though they were not properly enrolled, they do have money with us, and they are a member. So for state, they would enroll them right away. They would not wait for 26 weeks. And for other purposes, as if like the 65 waiver, they're a member, so they cannot waive their benefits. Now let's look at membership eligibility in more detail. 38711 states, if you have a person that's engaged to work 20 hours a week for 20 weeks or more, they're considered active. And that's the definition for membership. Now, if you have employees that may be working on a part-time basis, we have a tool here called the 2020 test. Now, state employers still have to review this, and they're still subject to the 6-month waiting period. But you always have to look at the intent of employment. If you have someone that's going to be working less than 20 weeks in the fiscal year, then you're going to need to track those weeks. And every time they hit 20 hours or more in a given week, you have to maybe like do a check mark. I have some employers that have Excel spreadsheets, and they actually will keep track of these individuals. And the law says if you reach 20 hours per week within 20 weeks within the fiscal year, which is July 1 through June 30, then at that point they reach the 20th week of membership going forward. So you're going to have to track this. Once they do meet membership within the fiscal year at 2020, then you'll have to enroll them. Here's another scenario. Let's say you have someone who's working 20 or more weeks in the fiscal year, but they're not going to be working 20 hours a week. You're still going to have to track it, and every time you see an individual employee that's reaching 20 hours per week, you have to check that particular week. But if they do meet that 2020, they actually have met 20 hours a week for 20 weeks or more within that fiscal year, they've now met membership, and you'll have to enroll them at that time going forward and start remitting contributions. Now, we do have a law in place that states if somebody within the fiscal year meets a part-timer, let's say, meets the 2020 rule membership, and you enroll them and start remitting contributions, if for some reason they change their job or move to a different position and they now start working less than 20 hours a week, the law says you still have to keep giving us contributions at least until the end of June 30 of that fiscal year. Now, as you get towards the end of the fiscal year, going into July 1 for the new fiscal year, you'll need to verify if that individual, that employee, is going to be working less than 20 hours a week going forward. If they are, then you would turn off the contributions. If they're going to be, if you talk to a manager or you know right offhand that this individual's, they're going to be working more than 20 hours for 20 weeks in the new fiscal year, then you would keep the contributions on. Now that we determine membership and somebody is supposed to be enrolled, let's look at the enrollment registration process. You as the employer, you'll need to have the manage enrollments role. When you go in there to the manage enrollments role, you'll see information. There will be instructions with an enrollment code. The enrollment code is unique. It's a specific number that each employer has. So the employees will enter this when they go into the the registration process, so we can identify them if they're working for your agency or your school district. So that individual would go on the website to start this process. So let's look what you would see as a managed enrollments person with that role. When you go into the screen, this is what you'll see. You'll see the instructions towards the top, employee online instructions in blue. If you click on that link, a PDF will open up and give step-by-step instructions for your employees, plus the enrollment code. You can either print it off or email it to them, and they will use that to go to our website to register. Now, what they're doing when they're registering is they're providing their personal information, a primary beneficiary, their mailing address, and their phone number information. But when they submit that to you, the employer, to prove their enrollment, you're not going to see all that information. What you're going to see is a box that's going to say membership date. And again, as we understand what membership is, if they're engaged to work 2020, so full-time employees, you're hiring them, they're going to be members day one. So you would put in their hire date for the membership date. It's the part-timers, then you'll have to wait, and you would not enroll them until they do meet that membership date later on. And then in that box on that form, that's when you're going to key that date later on. Now let's look at these particular items here on the screen. Enrollments pending employer verification. Once your employees have gone through the registration online and they've submitted their enrollment, you'll click on that view pending and a screen will come up. It'll have all your employees that have submitted the enrollment. You'll open up the individual and you'll see their information. You verify their membership date and you submit it to the Arizona State Retirement System. Now, generally it takes about 24 hours for the employees to be able to see their registration once you approve it. The next one we'll look at, we see the enrollments code, and then you see enrollments required. When you click on and open up this report, how this will help you is we're getting contributions from your payroll, but these individual employees have not enrolled yet. So you want to use this report to notify those new employees, we're getting contributions from your pay, but you've not enrolled. Please go on the ASRS website and complete the enrollment process. Then we have enrollments with no contributions. This is rare, but what this is somebody had completed the enrollment, but we never received any contributions.